Welcome to Back to Basics, the first of a series of health lectures that I have recorded in order to improve your health. The reason I'm recording this again is because the first time, several weeks ago, I recorded this and I recorded it live, but the PowerPoint presentation was not along with the video, so I've re-recorded this with the PowerPoint presentation so that you can view it with the slides, and I've updated them as well with more up-to-date information. This series of lectures was started actually in person in West Virginia with the intent of reaching the community and helping them to improve their health. I am a medical student. Actually, I just graduated medical school, and I was just doing it to help out the community, but I will be doing my residency in family medicine, and I have an interest in lifestyle medicine. I have a master's of exercise science, and so I just wanted to share some helpful information, especially during the times that we're living in now. It's very important for us to be taking care of our health. Even as things start to open up now, at this point, it's still important for us to take care of our health for prevention, not just to be able to fight off viruses, but also just to have good quality of life in general, as we want to be living an abundant life and not just surviving but thriving. So that is our goal here today. Thanks for joining, and we'll just go ahead and dive right in. So obviously we're living in the time of the coronavirus pandemic here now, and according to the most recent information, I used the Johns Hopkins map. According to that information, there are currently greater than 6 million cases of COVID-19, and there have been almost 400,000 deaths, 372,566 deaths. So this is a big deal. It is a global pandemic. I'm just going to fix something with my slides quickly here. Just bear with me. Okay, that should fix it. All right. And the flu causes 300 to 600,000 deaths globally every year. So you can see that the flu, of course, has been around for a lot longer, and the coronavirus will continue to be with us, and we have to be continuing to be careful because there's potential that we can have a second wave of infections, so we need to continue the social distancing and washing our hands and being careful, and also taking care of our health in the ways that I'll be talking about today. So this is just the Johns Hopkins map showing coronavirus cases, over 6 million globally confirmed, and 372,566 deaths as of today. And this is a infograph from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and they have some suggestions for what you can do to boost your immunity, and one of those things is dealing with stress, and we're going to be having videos on these different topics as well, and you can look at them on my YouTube channel. They're already up because they've already been recorded, so you can look at those as well to get information on each of these components, really. I don't talk specifically about connectivity, which would be getting in contact with friends and family in a socially distanced way, of course, at this time, in order to have that support system, which is very important. If you have a church, participating in their online events, do whatever you can to stay connected is important. Get plenty of sleep. They've shown sleep is very important for your innate immune function, and that's something that's incredibly important for being able to effectively fight off viruses, particularly COVID-19. So getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep is important, not getting more than that or less than that. And taking care to get proper sleep is very important. Avoiding harmful substances like smoking and alcohol. Other things can be harmful for your immunity, and also eating healthy, and that's what we're focusing on today, and in subsequent lectures I focus a lot on nutrition, although that's not the only thing that's important for us. But I want to put this into perspective, and I'm not limiting in any way the effects of the COVID-19 coronavirus, but I would like to point out that overweight and obesity has been shown to cause 2.8 deaths per year. So 2.8 million deaths per year are related globally to obesity and overweight. So this is a big deal that needs to be addressed and needs to be talked about, because here are some statistics of how many, the percentage of men and women in the United States who are overweight or obese is 70%. 70% of us are overweight or obese in this country. That's using BMI, body mass index, as an indicator, which has its limitations, but still, regardless, 70% of us are overweight or obese, and then it breaks down the percentage that are overweight, those that are just obese, and those that have extreme obesity, and there's the classifications below of what BMI would put you in what classification you would be, so you can check your numbers and find out where you fall. And here's a map showing the percentage by state, and of course kind of the southern states here, and the southern central region of the United States has the highest percentage and prevalence of obesity, and that's self-reported data from the CDC here. So it's a problem in our country and also globally. Here are some of the health risks of obesity, and they are given here by the National Institute of Health. The health risks include type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease and stroke, certain types of cancer, sleep apnea, osteoarthritis, fatty liver disease, kidney disease, and pregnancy problems. So there's a whole slew of health risks associated with obesity. And no, we don't have a vaccine for obesity, but there are simple things that we can do to help, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And so these are the things, the topics we're going to address today, simple treatment strategies that you can apply right now to help. Even if you're not obese or overweight, I'm not just targeting these individuals. You can be skinny and still not be healthy. So these are for all of us. So we're going to start off by talking about water. And according to an article published by Harvard, they just mentioned some of the things that water does, and actually it does a lot. We take for granted what water does in our body, but it carries nutrients to all our cells, flushes bacteria from our bladder, aids in digestion, prevents constipation, normalizes blood pressure, stabilizes your heartbeat, cushions joints, protects organs, regulates body temperature, maintains electrolyte balance. So water does a lot, and we are 50 to 80% water. So obviously we need a lot of water throughout the day, but how much do we need? And a lot of people debate about this. I wouldn't make it a, you don't have to be legalistic about how much water you drink, but typically it's recommended to get 4 to 6 cups of water per day, and that is a recommendation from the same article from Harvard here that they give, and it varies based on who you are, how much you sweat, how much you weigh, different things, but this is typically 4 to 6 cups a day is the recommendation typically. And one of the best ways to tell if you are dehydrated is the color of your urine, and if it's yellow, and of course different things can change the color of your urine, different things you eat like beets, if you eat nutritional yeast or other things, it can affect the color of your urine, but in general you want your urine to be clear, and you don't want it to be cloudy or bloody, of course. If it is, you should consult your doctor. And I should mention also, any changes you make to your lifestyle, you should be consulting your doctor. And this is educational information. I am not your doctor, so take these things into consideration and make the changes, but let your doctor know if you're making changes, because he may need to adjust your medications, and you may even improve in some of the health conditions you have, such as blood pressure and diabetes. These things can improve once you start making lifestyle changes. So this is a reason you need to let your doctor know that you're making these changes. So the recommendation is 4 to 6 cups per day. And actually there was a study that showed, it was published in Obesity, showing that drinking greater than 1 liter per day was associated with 5 pounds weight loss in 12 months. So that's just all that they did was drink more water, and they lost 5 pounds in 12 months. So water intake, incredibly, incredibly important. It gives you a feeling of fullness, and apparently you eat less when you drink water. And it's overall, as we saw, there's health benefits to drinking water. And so these results from that above study were independent of caloric intake, physical activity, and socio-demographic variables. So that means that they lost weight regardless of all of these other things. What if you don't like water? A lot of people say to me, I don't like water, I can't drink it. Well, to an extent, I do have to say, drink it anyway. But also, there are some things you can do. You can try adding a twist of fruit, maybe lemon or lime, or infusing it. Sometimes people infuse things with fruit, and you can buy at Walmart infusers where you just put some fruit in there, and the flavor of the fruit will get into the water. And it's just something to try. Or even those flavorings, it's not the best thing because they have chemicals and sometimes other things, dyes and other things in them. But if it's the only way to get you to drink water, then do that versus not drinking anything. And here's some helpful tips. I don't have a study for this, but this is a helpful thing for you, especially if you have constipation. It's helpful to drink 2 mugs of hot water with a twist of lemon before breakfast when you wake up in the morning. This helps to keep you regular, and it helps you to kind of wake up your digestive system before you eat breakfast. So you can do this first thing when you wake up in the morning to help you wake up. And also, another thing you can do is carry a water bottle with you wherever you go. That way you can be sipping water throughout the day. So that's water. And of course, any questions you have throughout the talk, you can of course comment in the comment section, or you can find my Facebook page on my YouTube channel. There's a link to my Facebook page. You can just comment there or ask me a question on Facebook Messenger. So let's talk about sugar. Sugar, sugar, sugar. How much added sugar do you think the average American is consuming? According to USDA, we consume about 34 teaspoons a day of added sugar. So this is not including sugar that's naturally found in foods, like fruits and even vegetables have sugar naturally in them, and other foods as well. But this is added sugar. 34 teaspoons a day of added sugar the average American is consuming. That is over 100 pounds of sugar a year. That is an incredible amount of sugar. That's a lot of bags of sugar. The average American is consuming more than 100 pounds of sugar per year of added sugar. So I did some math. We're going to figure out here, and we're going to look at this and what this calculates out to. How many extra calories per day is that? Well, if we know that there's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate, and sugar is a type of carbohydrate. And so if you have 34 teaspoons of sugar, and there's 4 grams of sugar per teaspoon about, then you can figure out that for 34 teaspoons of sugar, you have 136 grams of sugar. And if there's 4 calories per gram, that multiplies out to 544 extra calories per day total. Now, do you know how many calories there are in 1 pound of fat? There's 3,500 calories, 3,500 calories in each pound of fat. That's how many calories it would take to burn a pound of fat. So 544 extra calories per day, that adds up to, we take that 100 pounds of sugar, that's 45,400 grams of sugar. And if you multiply that by 4 calories per gram, you get 181,600 extra calories per year total. And that adds up to, we said there's 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. That adds up to 52 extra pounds per year. So you could actually lose 52 pounds by eliminating added sugar. If you are, this is based on the average. We're kind of extrapolating here the numbers, but in general, this is the case, that it is about 52 extra pounds per year if you just eliminated added sugar. And what are some of the sources? The culprit here, the major culprit, I think, in America, we could say, and you would probably agree, is soda, added sugar. Let's look at soda here a little bit. There's about 10 teaspoons in a can of soda alone, and that's 40 grams of sugar. This is according to Harvard here. And that equals 160 calories. And these are empty calories. So there's 2 types of calories in the foods we consume. We can categorize them foods into basic two categories here. This is just basic, but we have caloric dense foods and we have nutrient dense foods. So this soda would be a calorically dense food. In other words, it's high in calories, but it has virtually no nutrients in it. It has the carbohydrates, but there's no vitamins or minerals or anything like that. Whereas you take an apple, for instance, that is a nutrient-dense food. It's high in fiber, it's high in nutrients, it has vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and so this is the difference. And it's low in calories compared to a soda. So eliminating sugar is one step you can take. So we talked about water, we talked about sugar. Now we're going to talk about fiber. And fiber is, you can almost call it a wonder nutrient. I don't like to focus my attention on one thing individually, but fiber is one thing that if you try to aim more towards getting more fiber by eating those fiber-rich foods, you're going to improve your health. It's almost inevitable. So there's 2 types of fiber. There's soluble and insoluble. Soluble and dissolves in water and forms a gel, and insoluble does not dissolve in water. That's typically fiber that you find on the skin of an apple, for instance, and the soluble would be in the flesh part more so, just as an example in general. So there are a lot of benefits to fiber, just to name a few. The treatment and prevention of obesity, treatment and prevention of diabetes, and they've also found that there's a dose-response cancer risk reduction with fiber intake. And what that means is the more fiber intake you get, the greater the risk reduction in cancer. So the more the better, really. And then also it reduces the risk of CHD, so heart disease, and it can be a benefit for many different conditions, and it helps you feel fuller for longer. So here is some interesting research showing that an apple a day, there is some truth to that in regard to weight loss. They studied men and looked at them over an 8-year period. I think there were 27,000 participants in this study, and they just did surveys, and they looked at men that ate a single apple a day, and over an 8-year period, they gained less weight than the others. I mean, this is just looking at how many apples they ate a day. They didn't change anything. They didn't do anything differently. They just followed them over the course of this 8-year period. And those that happened to eat a single apple a day in their diet, they gained less weight than those that didn't over an 8-year period. So eat more fiber. Other research has shown, actually it was the same study, they showed that for every 20 gram increase in cereal fiber, weight gain was reduced by 1.8 pounds. That's over that 8-year period. So just eating 20 grams per day more fiber can reduce your weight gain, and most people do gain weight as they get older, and so anything you can do to help prevent that would be good. And this is so simple. You're just eating more fiber, eating an apple a day, eating more of these higher fiber foods. Also, there's a 10% reduction in risk of all-cause mortality for every additional 10 gram increase in fiber intake. And we'll talk about what that looks like, 10 grams, how much you would have to eat to get 10 grams of fiber. I have a scoring sheet that I'm going to show you. So this is incredible. That's not that much more fiber, and for every 10 grams you eat, you reduce your risk. You reduce your risk of all-cause mortality by 10%. Excuse me. So, what is the recommended intake of fiber? The Institute of Medicine recommends 19 to 38 grams of fiber per day. How many people do you actually think are meeting these recommendations for fiber? Only about 5% of our population actually is meeting the recommendations for fiber intake. So that is pathetic, right? 5% of us are getting 19 to 38 grams of fiber per day. Let's talk about whole grains now, because that is a source of fiber. Whole grains. Grains often get a bad rep, but there is, people are saying carbs are bad and things like this. But we need to understand there's different types of carbohydrates. There's refined grains, which we'll talk about, and then there's whole grains. So higher intake of whole grains is associated with a lower total fat, saturated fat, dietary cholesterol, and alcohol intake. So those that eat more fiber, they just tend to eat less of these harmful things. Also, those who eat whole grains also have increased dietary fiber, magnesium, vitamin E, vitamin B6, and folate intake as well. Sorry, there's a typo there. It should say intake. So what is whole grain? Well, we're going to look here. Here is a picture, a cartoon picture of a grain. And of course you have the hull, and that part is inedible. It says the inedible outer layer. But then you also, outside of the endosperm here, you have something called the bran, and inside you have the germ. And they are the parts, the bran and the germ are the parts that are higher in nutrients, antioxidants, B vitamins, vitamin E, phytonutrients, and unsaturated healthy fats, and the fiber. You have the antioxidants, the iron, the zinc, and the bran part. You have all these nutrients: copper, magnesium, B vitamins, phytonutrients, just good things. And then in the endosperm, there are some trace amounts of vitamins and minerals, but it's mostly carbohydrate, protein, which is to help feed the seed when it starts to grow, to help it to germinate and to grow. Now, when you look at refined grains or enriched grains, what they do is they take out the bran and the germ. And now, why do they do that? The reason they started in doing this, refining grains, is because it stores for longer, and it's a process that can help with production. And so they started doing this. But what it does is it takes out all the nutrients, or a lot of the nutrients, most of the nutrients from the grain. And here's a comparison. There's basically 3 different types of things they can do. So we have the whole grain. That would be with the bran and the germ in it. Whoops, sorry. And you can see all these nutrients here: vitamin E, B6, magnesium, etc. These are the amounts of those nutrients. Now, when they refine it, they take out the bran and the germ. These are the amounts of nutrients in the red here that are in it. So you can see they are greatly reduced, and none of the nutrients remain to the extent that they were in the whole grain. Now, what you'll find is when you look at the ingredients, a lot of times in bread, for instance, you'll see enriched wheat flour. Now, what they've done is they've refined it. They've taken out the bran and the germ, and they've added back certain nutrients. So you can see here there's 156% of your daily value of, well, I don't think it's daily value. I think it's just comparison to what is in the whole wheat. They add back, certain amount of nutrients for these specific vitamins here. And so, yeah, it's good you're getting some of the nutrients, but first of all, you're not getting all the nutrients that you would from the whole grain, and also they're out of proportion to what they would be naturally occurring in the natural whole grain. And so what you want to do is get more whole wheat products. So when you look at the bread, you want to look at the ingredients, and the ingredients you should see is not enriched grain, but whole grain. Even if it looks brown and on the outside of the package it says wheat, you need to look and make sure that it's whole wheat or whole grain. And it'll say that. It'll usually be in bold, and it'll say whole grain wheat flour. You need to look at the ingredients. Otherwise, that's the only way you can actually tell. Okay. So how does fiber work? And why is it important? Well, what it does is, we talked about calorically dense foods versus nutrient dense foods. Those that are high in fiber, foods that are nutrient dense, tend to be higher in fiber because they are all this fiber is not digested. It helps with digestion, and it helps you to feel full, and it's good for reducing your risk of developing colon cancer. But all that bulk that you eat, it gives you a feeling of fullness, but you're not getting the extra calories. Now let's compare a calorie-dense food, a potato chip, with all of the oil and everything, to an apple. So if you look at potato chips, you have Lay's potato chips. There's 1 gram of fiber in them, and a single bag is 160 calories. Now, if you eat, even the advertisement is you can't eat just one, right? And so you're left feeling like you want more because of that fat and the salt. It makes you crave it. But it also doesn't give you a feeling of fullness and satisfaction after you're finished. You almost want more. Whereas an apple is more fiber, it's less calories, and it's 8 times the weight and 70% of the calories. Now we're going to compare the price, because oftentimes people say it's too expensive to eat healthy, and this kind of thing. But let's look here at an 8-ounce bag from Walmart of potato chips, $2.68, and you could buy a whole bag of Gala apples from Walmart for $2.54. I bet you if you ate a whole bag of Gala apples, you would be full, versus eating an 8-ounce bag of potato chips. And here's just a visual to show you. It's from forksOverKnives.com. It just shows you an example. When you eat these oily foods, oil is very high. Oil has 9 calories per gram. It's very high in calories, but you're not getting a lot of nutrients with the oil. Of course, there's different oils, but the oil is not going to fill you up. And it goes on cheese here, high in fat, and high in calories, but it's low in fiber. Then you have meat, same thing, leave you feeling a little fuller, but yet potatoes, rice, and beans, and even more fruits and vegetables will leave you feeling fuller. You'll have more nutrients, and they're just overall better for you. So when you look at a nutrition label, something you should do is look at the carbohydrate to fiber ratio. That is the carbohydrate to fiber ratio. So this is something you can do. It's kind of simple math, and sometimes you can just eyeball it. But it's something that is good if you're going. Now, when you go to the supermarket, ideally you want to shop the perimeter of the store. And what that means is you're going to the produce aisle where there's a lot of these fresh fruits and vegetables. These are the ideal things, and they don't have labels, so you don't need to worry about looking at the label. But if you do buy foods that have labels, this is what you should do. You should look and divide the total carbohydrate by the dietary fiber, and you want that ratio to be 5 or less. You want that ratio of carbohydrate to fiber to be 5 or less. And that just means that the fiber content compared to carbohydrates is higher. So you have more fiber for every gram of carbohydrate there is. And usually the whole grain foods are in this ideal, but then the refined grains you'll find are not. So when you look at broccoli, here it has a ratio of 2. It's less than 5, so that's good. Look at these whole grain pasta here, and when you look at it, you can see that 41 divided by 6 is 6.8. So it's a little bit higher. Even though it's whole grain, the reason why the ratio is not higher is because the FDA says, I guess, it has to be above 50% whole grain product for you to label it as whole grain. And this particular pasta, it has whole grain, but it also has just normal flour, semolina and durum wheat flour that are not whole. See on the ingredients here, they don't say whole there. It just says wheat or durum wheat flour and oat fiber. So they have added these other grains. Now this isn't a terrible option. It's better than the normal just white pasta, but you want to read the labels and you want this ratio ideally to be less than 5. Okay, so here is a point system you can use from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and it just shows you points for particular foods, and you want to get up to 40 points per day. So that would mean you would be getting the recommended amount of fiber. Now, I should say, when you start eating more fiber, it may cause you some digestive issues. So you want to ease into this. You want to work your way up to it because your body will adjust with time, but initially you might have gas or bloating, and that is just because your body's not used to all this fiber. So you want to start making changes, but don't get discouraged if you start to have these digestive issues. It's not that you can't eat these foods. You just need to try different types of foods. There's plenty of different types of beans. There's plenty of different types of grains. There's plenty of types of vegetables and fruits you can try that you can digest easier. And the more you do it, the better it will get. And so beans are kind of the champion of fiber, and they're our champion food. You should at least be getting a half cup of beans per day. They're high in protein and fiber, and they're a whole food. They have nutrients and antioxidants, and they're just a great food that you should be eating, especially if you're a diabetic. And, soy is down here as well. And vegetables are 4 points. Fruit is 3 points. So getting plenty of fruits and vegetables, beans, whole grains, that is what you want to aim for. And then, of course, if you look at it, the meat, the poultry, the eggs, the dairy, the soda are 0 points. So you're not getting any fiber with these foods. They're not going to fill you up. And if you're trying to lose weight especially, you need to be getting that fiber because it's going to fill you up better. And by the way, the slides, the pictures here, this is from Dr. Drozik. He is a lifestyle medicine practitioner. And the slides that he has, he allowed me to use for that. So I just thank him for that. And also here is some slides from something called the Full Plate Diet, and this is a book here, and this recently during the COVID crisis, and it has been in the past, but now it is available for free online. You can go to the Full Plate Diet, type it in Google, and you should be able to get a membership for free, and they'll provide free meal ideas and some videos, I believe, that are very, very helpful for making the change to eating more fiber. So we're going to go through some examples here. So we look at regular things that you normally eat that you can spruce up and just add fiber to. So you don't have to make huge changes. You can just, for instance, if you eat Cheerios, there's 3 grams of fiber in a bowl of Cheerios with milk. But what if you added some, here they add cashew-goline, it's a type of cereal, but you can add other things. Mainly add these blackberries, and you'll be getting 8 more grams of fiber. So here in this example, you go from 3 grams to 18 grams of fiber just by adding some simple things, sprucing up this normal meal. Here's another example. This cream of tomato soup, 2 grams of fiber. But what if you added barley and frozen or fresh vegetables to that? You'd be from 2 grams of fiber to 9 grams of fiber just by making that simple change. And look how that would be so easy to do, and it would fill you up more for longer. So here, this is a good example because here it shows a sandwich, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And jelly oftentimes has a lot of added sugar in it, for one. But here you see the bread, it looks brown, right? So you think, oh, it's good. But actually, this is wheat bread, but not whole wheat. And so there's actually 0 grams, apparently, there's 0 grams of fiber in this particular bread that they are showing here. And the smooth peanut butter has 2 grams, and then the jelly has 0 grams, so there's only 2 grams of fiber in this sandwich. But what if you used this whole grain bread that they used, which has, I guess, 6 grams per slice, so 12 grams for 2 slices of bread. You have 12 grams of fiber. Then you have this crunchy peanut butter, which was 3 grams of fiber. And then instead of the jelly, you slice up a banana, and then you have 3 more grams of fiber. So you go from 2 grams to 18 grams of fiber just by making those simple changes. And I think you'll find, and I've talked to other people who find that if making the change from white bread to whole grain bread, the whole grain bread they find actually tastes better. The texture is better. It has more flavor. It's more. It's just. There's more character to it. It's. You'll find that it's better, and there's many brands now. It's easy to get whole grain wheat bread for inexpensive. So here is a bowl of oatmeal, which is good in itself. Oatmeal is great, but you can go from 4 grams to, instead of adding sugar to your oatmeal, add some fruit, even dried fruit, and you'll be getting the extra fiber in this type of thing. You can go from 4 grams of fiber to 12 grams of fiber just by doing that. Here's a good example. Potatoes get a bad rep, but they're not bad. Sweet potatoes are even better than white potatoes. But if you have a white potato, and you wanted to spruce it up, you could add beans to it. Add some beans with onions and tomato and salsa, even if you wanted to, and just spruce it up. And you can take a regular potato that has 4 grams of fiber and make it 17 grams of fiber, and this is like a meal here. And you can be full for hours after that. Doesn't that look delicious? Roasted sweet potato with chickpeas and avocado. So there's some simple things you can do to get more fiber. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is breakfast. Eat your breakfast. It's so important. It's not just an old wives' tale. The research is showing and agreeing. There was a meta-analysis recently published showing that skipping breakfast increases the risk of overweight and obesity and abdominal obesity. So eating breakfast is very important, and I want to point out one very, very interesting study done on women. And what it was there was there were two groups. There was the dinner diet group and the breakfast diet group. The dinner diet group, they ate a larger dinner. The breakfast diet group ate a larger breakfast and a smaller dinner. But the thing was, they both ate the same amount of calories per day. They both ate 1,400 calories per day, and it was controlled. The dinner diet group had 200 calories for breakfast, 500 calories for lunch, and 700 calories for dinner. The breakfast diet group was reversed: 700 for breakfast, 500 for lunch, and 200 calories for dinner. And these were the results after 12 weeks. Incredible. The dinner diet, they lost less weight. So both groups lost weight, because 1,400 calories is, less than what you're typically eating. You're setting yourself up to lose weight. So the dinner diet group, even though they did lose weight, they lost less weight than the breakfast diet group. They had less loss in their waist circumference. And here is, I think, the most amazing find, and that is that their triglycerides actually increased. So their triglycerides increased, and they had higher hunger levels and higher ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. Now, when you look at the breakfast diet group, they had 2.5 times greater weight loss. Now, mind you, they're on the same amount of calories, or both groups are eating the same amount of calories. The breakfast diet group had 2.5 times greater weight loss, greater loss in waist circumference. Their triglycerides decreased by 33.6%. That's huge. That's a huge difference. This group increased by 14.6%, and here in this group, they decreased by 33.6%. And the breakfast group had lower hunger levels throughout the day, and lower hunger hormone ghrelin. So eating your breakfast, you'll be less hungry throughout the day. You'll lose more weight, and it'll just be better for you overall. So you're thinking about skipping breakfast, think again. Breakfast skipping is associated with, so not just weight loss, but also a 20% increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So that's profound. Here is another shout out to Dr. Drozik, who provided me with this healthy plate. So this is one thing you can start doing to help you to get more fiber, making 3/4 of your plate whole food, plant-based. So have you lower calorie, higher fiber, and water content that'll fill you up for longer, getting more fruits, vegetables, legumes, and cooked whole grains. So make that 75% of your plate, and then this small 25% of your plate, you can do seeds and nuts, processed foods, and animal products. So you want to start limiting those things and increasing these whole food, plant-based options. So just to summarize, you want to drink more water throughout the day, cut out the soda and sugary drinks and sweets, eat an apple a day. In other words, eat more fiber, and eat a healthy breakfast. These are simple changes. You can start today making these changes, and you will see improvements. And I want you to do that right now. I want you to set up a goal for yourself now of the things you've learned that you've heard me say. I want you to set up goals, and I want you to actually write it down. Take out a pen and paper and write it down. Maybe the pen and paper's far away, but that's okay. You can get some exercise. Get up, get a paper and pen, and write down a goal for yourself, or a few goals from the things I mentioned. These are simple things. But when you write down your goal, I want you to be smart about it. What that means is you need to be specific. So don't just say, I'm going to eat more fiber. Say, I'm going to eat an apple for, breakfast every day this week, or I'm going to eat another piece of fruit. You don't have to be specific about what it is, but I'm going to eat another piece of fruit with my meals this week, or a salad, and I'm going to add fruit to my oatmeal. Something specific. You want it to be measurable. So you want to say, I'm going to drink 2 glasses more of water per day. I'm going to carry a water bottle with me, and drink. You want to just make it measurable so that you can be able to assess it that way. You want it to be attainable. So something that you can actually do. Don't make it a ridiculous goal that would be impossible for you to achieve. Make it relevant to what the things we talked about today, and make it time sensitive. So say, I'm going to do this week. I'm going to do it today, right now. Just make your goals smart and specific. Write them down so you can keep yourself accountable. And if you have someone, a spouse or a friend that would be willing to help you, work with them, because teamwork is very important, and it will be helpful along the way. So I hope these things were helpful. Here's my references, and thank you for coming. Comment any questions you have, and message me on Facebook or whatever you may want to do with your questions, and I'd be glad to help answer those for you. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye.